What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Winning Drive. Well, here on Texas Football, I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, pleased to be joined by another lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy himself, CJ Vogel, and our own coach, former high school football coach at Vernon, Capel, Brownwood, Belton, Rotan, also played college football at Abilene Christian, coach there as well, and was on the staff at the University of Texas for multiple head football coaches. These days, you can catch his work at ShipleyRanches.com. It's our own coach, Bob Shipley. What's going on, Coach? How you feeling?
Doing great. How you guys?
Doing good, Coach. Doing good. I mean, we're close to spring football happening, so obviously the juices are getting flowing a little bit. There's a hire that was made on the 40 acres to the coaching staff that we'll get to. Stoops, no less. We got to discuss that on the show. My man CJ, obviously, boots on the ground. He's always trying to get the scoop for guys. So he was at the Under Armour camp, and we'll get some of the nuggets my man CJ got from that Under Armour camp this past weekend. Also, we'll get into some more combine conversation. Obviously, this was the official end of the combine today. 7 Longhorns invited to the combine. 6 of them participated in drills of some kind. We'll talk about how those guys improved their draft stock, and obviously a lot yet to be determined in the offseason, in the draft season, I should say. So we'll get to that too, because the pro day is coming up, big pro day for a lot of these players as well. All right, guys, let's start with the big news that just broke, I don't know, a couple hours ago, that Mark Stoops, looks like Mark Stoops, former Kentucky head coach, who Texas knows very well, Coach, really familiar with him because they just played him. He's going to be hired as a special assistant to the head coach for Steve Sarkisian. This does follow a trend. Sark recently had hired Gary Patterson in a similar role. He had hired some other coaches, obviously, in similar roles as well. But Mark Stoops coming in now as a special assistant in this 2026 season. Coach, I'll throw it to you first because you actually, I know how small the coaching world is. You may, by some degrees of separation, know something about Mark Stoops that I don't, but what are your thoughts about him being added as a defensive mind to Muschamp staff, or really to Sark staff?
Yeah, I don't know Mark personally. I've met him one time, but obviously, he's done well enough, and this is in all seriousness for A&M to consider hiring him, as their head coach. And his defense, when you look at who Kentucky has to compete against recruiting, I think he's done a great job with what he's had to work with, because he does not get the cream of the crop, and they are not setting any NIL records, and so there is obviously a good following within the state, but you have to respect the guy. I mean, it's a little bit hard sometimes for us Longhorns, to hear the word Stoops and think, burnt orange, but I think it's going to be a great addition, much as Gary Patterson was, a few years back, with his knowledge of the conference, and also his knowledge of trying to defend Sark. I think he helps on both sides of the ball, give you some good tips, some good pointers, some good advice, maybe looking at things from a different angle than anybody on staff may have been looking at things from. But he certainly knows the conference well, and I mean, you got to look at these special assistants that he brought in. It's a pretty significant list of great coaches, and it makes you wonder if he's becoming the Nick Saban of, coaches looking for another chance to, get in with a winner and give us a good program and re-establish their chances of getting a head coaching job.
Yeah, because it's, for those who are unfamiliar with him, he was at Kentucky forever. So he does know the landscape and the ecosystem, if you will, of the SEC. I'm glad you brought that up, Coach. I think that's really important. I think he's bringing on coaches who do have intimate knowledge of this conference, right? Muschamp's one of those guys. Now you bring in another one with Stoops, one of those guys. You talk about Jabbar Jaluk being one of those guys. Stoops always kept the SEC games he was in close. So he has some insight on how to keep the games close, as Patterson did for the Big 12. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I loved about, remember, Gary Patterson, when he comes in, he's the one that gives PK the cliff notes to the Big 12. PK initially struggles learning really the different hybrid schemes of the Big 12, because the Big 12 offensively, we already knew they were kind of a juggernaut conference. Offensively, the Big 12 was always kind of ahead of a lot of other conferences. And when PK came in, I think he struggled to learn them. Man, Gary Patterson knew this conference like the back of his hand, probably had deep, files on all the coaches and their tendencies. I think he gave PK a little bit of the cheat codes, if you will, and gave him the cliff notes on the Big 12 and the ecosystem. And then I think that's when you really saw PK's defense start to improve. Could it be something like that with Mark Stoops? What are your thoughts about it, CJ, overall?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, right? It's the continuation of Sark adding in, former head coaches and going the Nick Saban route, as we've talked about, right? It's been Gary Patterson previously, both on the defensive side of the ball. We've seen offensive guys come in with Paul Chryst, obviously with an offensive line background. Most recently as well, Billy Gonzalez, the former interim head coach over at Florida after Billy Napier was let go, and Neil Brown a year ago, who has since taken the North Texas job. So again, it's kind of like a revolving door of ideas and self-assessments. And I think more than just about anything, Sark can sit down with Mark Stoops and say, where were we prone in 2025? How did you attack us? Because, I mean, we don't need to rehash that Texas-Kentucky game, and we're not going to. But God was it ugly, right? And so Stoops knew something that could, basically neutralize that Texas offense at the time. So that, I think, is something that Sark has done a very good job at, is when he goes and adds, coaches or analysts to his staff, it's all about, all right, I know that you played against us, scouted against us. Where can we improve as well? And not to mention, let's go back to 2021. Texas tried to hire Mike Stoops.
They did.
The linebacker coach.
Yeah.
So there's some connection in the Stoops family, or some sort of approach to coaching football on the defensive side of the ball that Sark obviously likes. So that's how Texas ended up with Jeff Choate now obviously over at Nevada. So things tended to work out pretty well then, but there's been ties to the Stoops family for quite some time now.
It's a good point. Forgot about the Mike Stoops thing. The tail wagged the dog on that one, and the fans are like, nah, we ain't ready to trust the Stoops yet. Now you're bringing in Mark Stoops. It's been a lot more of a favorable reception among Longhorn fans. They did not like the Mike Stoops thing, though. I remember that. That was a lot of blowback from Longhorn fans about that. But I like this move. I think it's great. I don't know if we're done, because he has had multiple special assistants in previous years. Think about a couple of years ago, he had 3 of them, right? You in 2024, you had in 2023, you had Paul Chryst, Joe DeCamillis, and Payam Sadat, I believe, was also considered a special assistant to the head coach. So I do wonder if he's not done, maybe adding some special assistants to this staff. But this one is a home run hire. I think all the points that both of you made were on the money there. And especially you, CJ, talking about how bringing in former head coaches. An invaluable resource to bring in another head coach that can help you kind of sift through some of the problematic areas, whether it be roster construction, whether it be the conference itself, whether that be coaching other coaches. I think it's a win-win. I don't know if there's a downside to bringing in, other than I know y'all don't trust Stoops. Y'all just don't trust the Stoops. But for years, we've all believed that the Stoops family has a text chain, and that anytime a Stoops is playing the Texas team, no matter if that's Mark Stoops or whether that was Bob Stoops, that, oh man, they are sharing information on the best ways to beat Texas. And Venables was probably in on that, and then Lincoln Riley got in on it. So I don't know for sure. I can't prove there's a text chain that exists, but I feel like it sounds like a Stoops-like thing. So, but there you go. Mark Stoops, he ends up getting the special assistant to the head coach gig for Texas. I'm not sure exactly what specific area he is going to, focus on, or specific task that Sark is going to give him. I do feel like Sark has brought coaches in before who have had almost a specific task. I feel like Gary Patterson was brought in to really improve the Texas pass coverage and to make it specific to the Big 12 ecosystem. Here's my example. In 2021, before you got the Gary Patterson special assistant to the head coach job, you were running quarters coverage about 33% of the time. So like basically a third of your coverage was quarters coverage. Gary Patterson in 2021, his last year there at TCU, he ran quarters around 54% of the time. All right, he was one of the national leaders in running quarters coverage. That was just how he believed was the best way to match up with the spread, the hybrid spread schemes in the Big 12. When Gary Patterson was hired as his special assistant that same year for Texas, you went to 54% quarters coverage. That is not a coincidence. All right, that is Gary Patterson coming in and saying, "Hey, man, this is how you play defense in the Big 12. This is the best way for you to be effective in coverages, matching your coverages with your fronts in the Big 12." And PK just took it and said, "You know what? I'll just do exactly what you did." So I think ultimately I wonder if there is something like that Mark Stoops will be specifically in charge of. Like take the Paul Chryst hire. When they hired Paul Chryst, he really helped them improve their 6 O-line packages. Remember, they kept running the Big 11, Big 12 packages. He was known from his days at Wisconsin as running a lot of extra O-line packages. And their yards per attempt, their passing numbers improved dramatically out of the 6 O-line package when they brought in Paul Chryst. Now, maybe that was, the addition of Paul Chryst, maybe not. I think it was. I don't think it was a coincidence. So I do wonder if there's something specific that say, hey, I want Mark Stoops to work on this. I want him to bring in this trait that he had, this asset from his philosophy to our team and to our defense.
Well, to your point too, it was Neil Brown and the quarterback run.
Yes. Boom.
So it's very specific and targeted when it comes to adding these guys to the staff as an analyst or a special advisor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point. I didn't even think about the Neil Brown because, the Neil Brown one is freaky too. Random stat before we move on here about the Neil Brown stuff, because I was researching that today. So for the first time in Sark's tenure here at Texas ran more gap power schemes than they did zone runs, period. Just they ran more gap power runs than they did zone runs. First time ever. And if you look at Arch's gap to zone run ratio, Arch was at over 70% gap runs, power runs. If you go look at Green at West Virginia, his last year there with Neil Brown, 75% gap runs. And a matter of fact, West Virginia, during Neil Brown's tenure there, they were mostly a zone run scheme. They were running a lot of zone runs, probably 60% of the time zone runs. And his last year there, they flipped the script and became more of a power running team. They ran more gap power schemes. And I think Green was a big part of that too, because he had his best rushing season ever, or at least best rushing season there under Neil Brown. So I think you're right about that too, CJ. There's no doubt Neil Brown had a direct effect on the quarterback run game. Maybe the run game overall, they got into more power concepts with him as a special assistant on the staff. So, yeah. Good stuff there, CJ. All right, let's get. No, matter of fact, let's thank our lead sponsor before we move on, and then we'll dive into questions. I know you guys got a lot of those, and we'll also talk some combine here. I got a combine-related game I want to play with these gentlemen here, so we'll do that. But first, let's thank our sponsor, our friends over at Von Lane. We appreciate them, and you will as well. Von Lane does a fantastic job, folks, getting you from point A to point B, but making sure they do it in the most luxurious way possible. I know a lot of you out there, you're still, flying those short routes in between major Texas cities, or maybe you're driving yourself, which can be very stressful and a bit of a hassle. Well, our friends at Von Lane, they offer first-class travel experience on the ground. You board in minutes at a private hotel terminal. You settle into one of just 22 oversized leather seats. You enjoy complimentary Wi-Fi, snacks, beverages, and hot towel service on every trip. And on select departures, you can have a full meal. And how about this? Our friends over at Von Lane have upgraded their entire fleet with Starlink internet across the entire fleet, making Wi-Fi even faster and more reliable. Right now, they're serving Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, Memphis, Nashville, Atlanta, and Knoxville. And they're adding more and more cities to that list every day. If you're traveling with a team, you can charter your own Von Lane coach, designing the trip from pickup to drop off. You can visit vonlane.com. That's VONLANE.com. And if it's your first time riding, you can enter the code OTF26 at checkout to receive $20 off your first ride with our friends at Von Lane. That's Von Lane, your private jet on wheels. Thank you very much to our friends at Vaughn Lane. I've taken it myself several times to go visit family. I've taken it on business trips as well. I would highly recommend the folks at Vaughn Lane. All right, let's get to a couple of questions. Oh, we got a super chat here from Brad. Thank you, Brad. Said also he brings an air of toughness that will benefit us. Secondary knowledge and fighters on the line of scrimmage. Sark becoming the coach rehabilitator is huge. No, I mean, that's like, obviously Coach Shipley brought that up that, Nick Saban had that coaching car wash where you could go through the Nick Saban coaching car wash and come out clean on the other side, no matter what happened prior to that. Once you into that Nick Saban coaching car wash, in fact, Sark's been through it himself, right? You come out clean on the inside, you look real good and pristine. And I think Sark not only appreciated that experience from Nick Saban and how much he did for his career, maybe he wants to pay it forward a little bit and do this for some other coaches. It's definitely working. That's no doubt about that. But the toughness factor, I'm going to back you on that one too, Brad. I agree. I think there is a trend with these coaches he's bringing in. There is a kind of a toughness, grit to these guys he's bringing in. Maybe he feels like that's something that they lacked, but also the knowledge of the SEC is something I think is going to be invaluable. You got another guy with 10 plus years of SEC knowledge. I mean, it must champ full. I don't know how long Jaluk was in the SEC, but now you have guys on his staff where it looked like, you brought this up, CJ. It looked like a couple of those road games where Texas, what's the word? Maybe ill prepared for the hostility in the electricity and intensity in those road environments in the SEC.
Coach, we hear pretty often, and guys, excuse my voice. I don't know what happened this weekend, but just being out at the Under Armour camp all day just cooked me. But Coach, we hear often about the team taking on the personality of a coach. How often does that also happen in coaching staffs when you have a guy like a Will Muschamp now in that room and you bring on other guys? And does that triculate the same as it would to the players with intensity for a guy like Muschamp?
Yeah, I think so. I do think coaches need to be who they are, and not try to morph into something. They're at the University of Texas because they bring something to the table that is impressive enough for Sark to hire him. But there's no doubt that with PK, there didn't seem to be that, motivation, just the fire, the grit, the grease board break-in kind of intensity and all that stuff. But I do think that it will infiltrate the staff. I don't know how much it will affect. I mean, you coach the way that you coach, but if I know Will, it's going to be at an all-time level of intensity for every position.
Yeah.
So some guys may have to get out of their comfort zone a little bit, because he's going to be demanding it. And, like I've said many times, if you want your players to play with intensity and be hard workers and be tenacious, then as a coach, you better bring that to work every day as well. Yeah. If you expect it of them, they got to expect it from you. And I do think there's going to be a certain amount of that happens, CJ.
Yeah, no, that's what probably I'm most excited for with Muschamp. Obviously, Rod, we've talked about it almost every week when we talk about that Georgia game and Kirby calling out the toughness and what it means to play at that level, right? And now you add two guys to your staff, one of which calling your defense and another guy that's probably going to be a pretty important behind the scenes, figure. That, in theory, right, on paper, you should sit there and say Texas will be a tough team defensively. They're going to have that mindset based off of who will be in the room defensively. So, look, we'll see. And again, we're only a week away from spring football. So I'm excited to hear more about the returns and kind of that defensive personality, if you will, of this team specifically more than anything.
Also, I love the fact that they brought up the secondary knowledge just in terms of obviously the back in the back end there, the defensive backfield, because he is a secondary coach by trade. Just like that's what he coached initially. Like he was a DB coach when he coached initially. And I believe he played DB, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like Muschamp. Like Muschamp played DB, and Muschamp has coached all over the defense. But you know what I'm saying? But initially, so I think there's an emphasis on the defensive backfield here. Try to get those guys some more detailed, oriented coaching to try to get the defensive backfield, try to get the most out of them to maximize that group. I feel like that's a big part of this too, because I think last year there was a belief that the disconnect between the coverages and the front forced that secondary to play conservatively too often. And there were busted coverages, something we hadn't seen in a few years in the secondary. So I think there's a lot of emphasis on secondary's young. They're really, really talented. Let's get them buttoned up as much as we can going into 2026. Bringing in a guy like Mark Stoops will help that. All right. Before we get back to some of the other questions, we do have our Monday guest who joins us each and every Monday, courtesy of our good friends at Hard Grove Roofing. My friend, lifetime Longhorn, and my former teammate, Stevie Lee, joins us. What's going on, Stevie? How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
We're doing
good. Happy Monday.
Man, I got on here and I thought that I was on a podcast with Ja Rule over there with CJ Vogel, man.
Yeah. That's good. I love it, Ja Rule. I don't know. CJ's working hard. We'll get CJ's report. He was at the Under Armour camp this weekend, so that's why he's hoarse, because he's been working for the people. We'll get his update, but I want to get your thoughts on the new hire. Reportedly, Mark Stoops going to be hired as the special assistant to the head coach. What are your thoughts about it?
I have to make sure, that Stoops name gives me chills, man. I had a really good run at the University of Texas, and we won a lot of games, Rod, but we can never get over that OU hump, man. So when you say Stoops, it's just kind of twitch a little bit, man. So it's the right Stoops. So I'm happy about it. This just furthermore tells me, and I think I said it over on this podcast, is how we are going all in for this season. I feel like we're going all in because these are some big name guys last year, and we want to get it done. So going all in on the staff, going all in on some of the players that we wanted to get, and going all in on the program as a whole. A lot of people got some big money, some big raises around there just to keep them. And so I think that they want this year to be the year. It's a lot of money being thrown around. It's a lot of just a lot of weight being thrown around that building right now.
Yeah, well, it should be. I mean, it's already last year, and Colin Simmons last year. You got some.
Well, I didn't want to say it, but you did. So,
well, is that a mystery? No,
it's not. You're right.
We all know that. That's the reality. That's why there's a lot of pressure. And you're right. And a lot of I'm with you. I think they're all in. I think they're being very aggressive, and they should be really aggressive. Because last year you regressed because you didn't make the playoffs after making it in consecutive years. All right, let me ask you about the combine. I don't know how much you watched of the combine. I know that's tough. I know you got stuff to do, but did you catch some of the results of the combine? And who do you think improved their draft stock the most? Who you thought had a good showing?
Yeah, I did not catch much of the live combine, but I saw some kids changing their lives with just some clips and things like that. So, I mean, the combine is there for the guys that are trying to go up. I saw Pavia throwing a couple clips. I don't know, man. It's good for the kids that are trying to better their stock, but it could also hurt some kids that didn't show up ready or prepared.
I guess the big thing for me, and we talked about it a little bit with Rod and Jeff Howell earlier too, Stevie. We've seen Texas players in the combine put up some big time testing numbers over the last few years. I think the world of what Torrey Becton can do with the strength and conditioning team. But, as a player, when you were a younger guy, seeing the older guys then go off and put up times in the combine or have their pro day, how much does that drive you in, the middle of winter conditioning to be like, all right, this sucks, but we got to lock in so I can then put up numbers on my own one day.
Yeah, that plays a part of it. But if I'm being honest, man, I don't know. And Rod, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but most of the guys, whenever they're done at the University of Texas, they went and got their own trainers.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of bettered their times. Mad Dog was great for putting weight on people and making people strong with explosive power. But when it came down to the speed and the 40 times and things like that, he was good at it. And we were fast when we were here. But then most of the guys went out there and got specialists. Like one of the fastest guys that came out was Michael Huff, right? He didn't work out. He worked out with his own crew. And then who else was it? Quentin Jammer. He went and worked out with someone else as well. So, some of those guys back in our day will go work out with other people. But right now, Tori's getting like big shout outs at the podium. From the guys that are there. So I think that we got something special with Tory Beckham and dumping the money in his lap. And it always baffled me, even when I was playing, when we were playing, Rod, the person that touches the kids, the players the most is the strength and conditioning coach. So you really, really need to invest in a really good strength and conditioning coach that's going to run a good strength and conditioning program. Because if you ain't strong, no matter what position these coaches will put you in, you're still not going to be successful, So Tory touches these kids from when they get back from winter break all the way up until they go home in the summer. And then the summer, like he's touching these kids almost every day when they're on campus. In fact, he does touch them every day when they're on campus. And these coaches, while they're gone out recruiting and things like that, it's Tory Becton and his staff that's actually building the team.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. And honestly, to CJ's point, I mean, he should be getting a little bit more love around this time of year because, yes, these guys do specialized training for the combine, but you still got to build a base, a foundation of athleticism, right? A base of like explosivity as an athlete. And they do that over those 2-3 years, however long they're with Tory Becton. And the guys always, I don't say always, but it feels like they run faster than they're expected to. Texas guys.
Yeah. The other thing is, Rob, when we were playing, we had to get our run like the skinny boys, UDBs, y'all would get y'all run at like 2, and then the big boys get our run at 3 p.m. During the springtime. These guys are running early in the morning where it's not hot out yet. So that's what I'm mad about right now.
No, you're right. That comes in the summer, and that's coming. It was funny. Anthony Hill got on the podium and was like, yeah, man, we were running 140 degrees. I'm like, all right, it's hot in Texas. It's hot in Austin. 140. Hell, I don't know about that. He said it is good for, obviously, the team bonding and everything. So for Tory Becton and his guys, another very strong weekend.
Yeah, they were running us in the heat because they had to. They run these guys in the heat because they want to test their mental toughness. Like they ran us in the heat because that was just what we did. We just ran. We're gonna run the heat. That's the way it is. Now they're like, nah, let's test your mental toughness because they got the body, the tracking devices on them and everything. They know exactly how much fluid they need. They know who's dehydrated. They know who's only giving 80% instead of the 95%. They know all that. They literally know it real time. They tell me all the time. They say, I'm watching this dude. He only going 80%. Does he think I'm just? They know exactly how hard you're going. They have the baseline. They have all the data and information. So it's way different than you check Mad Dog and Shep just dog cussing you when you was out there probably depleted, dehydrated, and had no legs under you. Like, you still got it. Let's go. And it's like, actually, I don't. I got nothing left. I got nothing left. You just don't see it because we ain't got the technology now. So it's a science now. And by the way, I also think that's why the guys perform better too. That it is a science. I think it was less of a science when Dog was doing it. I love him. But it was less of a science, and it was more of a mental test. It was a test about mental, basically testicular fortitude and mental toughness. And
it's a difference between training a mule and training a thoroughbred, right? These guys get trained for the Kentucky Derby. We were just pulling sleds.
Man, come on. Exactly. Good stuff. That's a good example of it. All right, Steve,
technology, as you were saying, Rod, technology, Dog didn't have those. He didn't have the technology to have those guys wired up every practice.
Yep.
And you could print out the data on every kid every day, his top speed, top, everything, how many calories he burned, how quick his movements were, everything. Dog didn't have that. He did the old school, but everybody did it that way. But now it is a science.
Yeah. And you see the training clips, all these guys wearing the catapult. They look like the broad deals, but these catapult, what is it? The metrics that they bring up, those mile per hour or those times that these guys put up, Coach, those things are plastered in the locker room. They're plastered in Moncrief. It's one of those things where you walk in and competition drives you every single day because you don't want to walk in and see, oh, shoot, I had the slowest miles per hour or I had the worst, weightlifting, units moved or whatever. So that drives a lot of competition that probably isn't ever brought to light to the normal fan.
I like that. It's good stuff, CJ. All right, Stevie, thank you for joining us as always on a Monday. Won't keep you too much longer, but we really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate you guys. How you doing, Coach Shipley?
Doing great.
Good
a lot
deal.
of stuff going on. I mean, you're sitting there and it's ho-hum, then all of a sudden, lots of news happening.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, man, I appreciate you guys. Remember Hargrove Roofing.
Damn right. We'll show them some love. Look at that. Beautiful. Look at that. It's a nice hat right there, too. Stevie Lee, thank you, Stevie. Joins us courtesy of Hargrove Roofing. Check out hardgroveroofing.com. They're offering actually a free roof inspection if you reach out today, 512-645-3202. Know who's on your roof with our friends at Hargrove Roofing. They have offices all over Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. They are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. Nobody does it better. They have superior, reliable service. Customer service is their top priority. They are fine folks, too. We've actually done several activations with our friends over at Hargrove Roofing. I can vouch for the character of the folks at Hargrove Roofing. So can my man, Stevie Lee. Stevie Lee will not be on your roof, but he can make sure that he puts you in touch with the right people. That's hardgroveroofing.com. All right. Thank you to our friends at Hargrove Roofing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, CJ.
No, thank you, Hargrove Roofing. I'll let you finish there, Rod. But before we go on, we got a question. And I've been wondering it too, Coach. How did Pee Wee go this weekend? How did we do?
Oh
no.
Oh no, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. I mean, when the last time you were on the field was at the college level, and now I had one little kid crying on the sidelines, and I'm calling for parents to come over and help, because I'm going to be on the field, and
So it's safe to say this could be your toughest coaching gig yet.
A huge learning curve for me. Big time. Big time.
Are we at least learning the playbook? Are we getting any progress on that?
No, playbook went in the trash can.
Oh, no.
We're starting all over. Well, plus, let me tell you, the wind was blowing 30, 35 miles an hour. So you throw a pass and it's just like, sails over. So we had to go back to the run game. I'm not very patient with the run game sometimes. But I tell you what, the best run of the day was my granddaughter. She can fly. Yeah, she can fly. Gave it to her on a jet sweep, man. She almost scored.
Nice. I like it. So it's co-ed, it's boys and girls?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, like this team we played, they didn't have any girls on the team. It's 10 and under, and they looked like to me they had all 10-year-olds because our guys are going, where's the team we're playing? I go, that's them right there. They go, no, that's 12 and under over there. I said, no, those boys are real. It was actually a team from Dice Air Force Base. And so they kind of got a select team, of kids, on the base that are
some ringers
that are raised in a very disciplined background and all that stuff. No, those dudes could play, man. It was fun. We almost came back, got a little heated in the end.
That's good.
I'm like, what? I mean, we're driving down to score to tie the game, got the ball about the 15-yard line. All of a sudden, the ref blows a whistle and walks away. And I'm like, what happened? He goes, that's the end of the game. I said, there's no 2-minute warning. I mean, it's like 9th, 10th grade boys out there repping these games, and bless them, they make $10 a game. And we're lucky to have them, so you don't ever get it. In fact, me and the other coach we were kind of calling penalties. He said, hey, did like the quarterback can't run with the ball unless there's a rusher.
I got
so
you.
Our quarterback ran with the ball, made a long run. He goes, hey, coach, did he was he the quarterback and we weren't rushing anybody? I go, yeah, he was. Yeah, you're right. That's a penalty. Call it back. So we just kind of call our own stuff. It was comical at best. But
how many games you got left to coach?
Oh, thankfully it's only a 4-game season.
Oh, that's good. Man. We got these next 3 games, Coach. We got to get you the advanced analytics, the metrics, the new.
Yeah. I haven't seen us on Pro Football Focus yet, but
oh man, that is good. We say y'all didn't get blown out though, y'all.
That's me right there. My wife was giving me a hard time last night, saying, you've been coaching high school and college players, I don't know if, these kids don't understand. And I'm like, hush. Okay. I need an assistant coach.
Hey.
I need an assistant coach.
So is it only you and nobody else? Are you the only
I'll be
coach?
Glad to have you there.
How many coaches are coaching? Just you, coach?
Yeah. Well, it was me for the first half until I sent a boy over to get his daddy from the other side of the field because the parents had to be on the other side of the field. I'm like, help.
Oh, that sounds.
And I can't hear very good. I'm wearing hearing aids. The wind's blowing 30 miles an hour. There's little boys crying. I can't hear what he's saying. And I'm like, somebody come over here and help me.
Oh man, that's coach. You know what? I can't wait. Is this weekend going to be the second game?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I need an update there. I didn't know this was going on. That's my first time hearing about coaching the Pee Wee League team. All right, we're gonna need detailed updates next time, coach. So make sure we got somebody keeping up with that.
We're gonna get
you a video highlighter too.
Yeah, we need. That's what I'm saying. We need some highlights. We're gonna need some. I'm gonna need some video of coach on the sideline during one of those heated moments.
Throw my hat down.
Yeah,
CJ hat throwing.
What are your play sheet at? How many plays you got on your play sheet?
Well, I had about 10. Now I got 4.
That's what I got.
Yeah, I may have 5. I don't know. See, here's the deal. I've never done this 5-on-5. Little 8, 9-year-old kids. I just assumed that everybody was going to play like zone defense. So what we played, zone defense.
Yeah.
And now they were man to man.
Playing press.
All my routes, everything was against zone. They're playing man to man, and they had the athletes to play man to man. I could never line up in man to man with some of the kids out there because sometimes the ball snap, they're still standing there looking around like you cover him, and they literally don't know what that means.
Don't know what it means yet.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, quarterback, you're under center. What does that mean? Shoot up to the line of scrimmage. What is the line of scrimmage? I mean, it's comical.
No,
really. But everybody had fun. We almost came back and beat them. They scored the first 2 times they touched the ball, and then we held them to 1 touchdown after that. But
okay, adjustments were made.
There you go, coach. Yeah, I like it. I can't wait to get updates on that. Hold on, who's the defensive coordinator? You defensive coordinator too? You the old?
I do it all, baby. I do it all.
Damn, we do it all, coach. Man,
we're good this week. Don't tell my opponents, but we're going straight man coverage with a free safety, baby.
Oh, yeah.
I like it. Let's go. Force that quarterback to make some throws, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I like that. I support that. Muschamp will support it too, coach. All right, let's get some couple of super chats. Lock-in horns.
Sidelines.
Lock-in horns says everyone says Becton is great, but opposition calling us soft. Does Torrey deviate the size, weight, and strength that we need? That's interesting about the soft comment. I don't know. I mean, obviously, Torrey Becton's got some accountability in that if the teams aren't tough enough, and if obviously lines of scrimmage, if Texas isn't winning the lines of scrimmage or getting beaten in the lines of scrimmage. I think Torrey Becker's got some of that, but that's not all on him. I think some of the scheme also affects that, and that's why Sark made the move he did. That's part of it too. But no, you make a good point about that Locking Horns, that if Florida saw you on film and basically said, we can beat them because they're not physically tough enough to beat us, then I'm sure some of that is the strength and conditioning department and the strength and conditioning of the overall roster. No doubt.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair point. I was thinking about it earlier because, I sit here and obviously I've been praising Torrey Beck in the last 3 years for what Texas has run, how they've moved, what that looks like. And then, you kind of sit back and you say, well, maybe some of the bench press numbers weren't great, right? Jatavian Sanders jumps out. Anthony Hill had 21, which is still pretty good. But of the 4 or 5 linebackers that went, I believe it was bottom of that list. So you sit there and you say, okay, is the strength where it needs to be? And you look at the offensive line that couldn't get a push, and you're like, okay, well, is that just not having the guys with that necessary, between the ears aspect of playing in the trenches? So it kind of goes both ways, but undeniably speed, agility, the make you miss ability of a lot of these guys that Texas has deployed on their offense side of the ball, that's been there, right? And I think your front seven defensively has been very good, especially in short distances. So, you can go back and forth and kind of pick and choose what you want to focus on that will either be, good or bad in terms of the strength and conditioning program. So I look at it obviously in a number of different lights, but ultimately I'm pleased, very pleased with the way that this strength conditioning program has looked over the last few years.
Yeah. Well, they've improved a lot of things in the combine, I think, probably, but I do think the bench press is a little bit archaic. I mean, 215 many times you can,
225.
Is it 225? Let's see what they can power clean. Probably the most overall telling lift in football is the power clean, because it's upper body and lower body. I don't know. I probably don't have time to do that and whatever, but the bench press, that's the only thing that you use. That's pretty telling for offensive, defensive linemen, but I don't know about the rest of them.
Yeah. No, Mad Dog was obsessed with power cleans. If we'd have done that, guys would have really impressed at the combine, because he was obsessed with power clean, to your point, Coach. Thought it translated really well to a lot of football movement. But yeah, thank you, Locking Horns. We appreciate that. And I think ultimately it's Ohio State and Georgia. It's those teams that are where a lot of these issues that you may be pointing out there, they seem to, come to fruition. And so that is also part of getting over that hump. But I think a lot of teams got issues with Georgia and Ohio State. But you're Texas, so you should be one of those teams that are able to at least match up with with a Georgia and Ohio State. And I would say that you're still figuring that out as a program. You did run for 106-some yards on Ohio State, though. I mean, this fashion. And now looking at how freaky that defense was, I'm starting to figure out how the hell they did that.
It's unbelievable.
I'm like, that defense was freaky, man, in terms of the athletes. Super chat here. Thank you. The Nick Turn says Hollywood and Brown, modern day Wishbone. Oh, Hollywood and Brown. No, modern day Wishbone. I would say as long as they can break out, and this is the thing, if you want to talk about the modern day Wishbone, I would say that, remember the go-go offense that Brennan Marion had? It was essentially an option run game. Like his go-go offense was. And Sark took a lot of the go-go principles with Brendan Marion's here and used it in his pony package, his 2-back sets. Essentially, the go-go offense is a 2-back set offense, West Coast passing game, essentially a triple option run game. And now that you do have a quarterback that can run, and Arch, he can run, design runs and scramble, you can implement some version of option football. Now, you wouldn't do it a lot because you don't want to expose Arch, but you do have those kind of running backs back there. So in the pony package, I wouldn't doubt if Sark's got something up his sleeve with these 2 backs out there, also to put defenders in conflict. Now, I don't know if it's going to look like old option football, but essentially it'll be football that be modern option football, which is going to put a defender in conflict with those 2 backs and a quarterback run game +1. So I'm with you, the Nick Turn. Modern day wishbone. Ooh, could be nice. All right. Thank you for the super chat. Says, how exactly do you judge success of a strength and conditioning program? That is a good question.
Good question.
What is the I don't know what I mean. I said combine, I think, has been a part of it. I don't know how much of it, but I would say the combine has reflected very well on Texas strength and conditioning program. I don't know if that's how you judge it though.
Well, I think you need to go back, and we'll never get those numbers. But when those freshmen come in, you look at their numbers, their testing numbers, and I'm sure they all probably have to test. I know they have to test because they got to know where to start them on, how much weight they're going to be putting on each rep.
Yeah.
But, just have a annual chart based on their progress in all those areas, even cone drill, everything.
Yeah. I think, it's subjective in a way, but when you continually hear, wow, this guy impressed, he ran quick, he's atop of the board for his position, and running, jumping, benching, agility, you sit there and you say, it's probably pretty good. And then when the results on the field obviously match up with what the athleticism brings to the table, you sit there and say, okay, things are working cohesively between strength and conditioning and the playbook and the coaches on the field. That's kind of what you like to see. So again, whether it's Xavier Worthy, I went through the numbers earlier today. I think Texas over the last 3 years, I have it here, they have, 10 players that have run 4.45 or quicker in the NFL Combine. And right on the outside of that was Bijan Robinson at 4.46.
Wow. So
it's a good sign when guys are running that quick at the Combine.
Yeah. And it's so individualized now. To Coach's point earlier, it's such a science that, what was success for Tavondre Sweat is going to be the same what's success for an Xavier Worthy, whatever it is, right? But still, they have these goals each year, pretty much, about weight, about strength, about speed, all these different things. We are not privy to it, but I do remember that, and I'm sure now it's way more detailed than it was back in my day. But everybody's got their different goals they're trying to hit, and the strength and conditioning staff, it's their job to help you meet those goals. They're also the ones that help you come up with these target goals. Like, hey, you know what? We think you can put on this much mass, but we still want to make sure you still got this kind of speed threshold, that kind of stuff. So I imagine it's very different for every individual player. And also, like Coach says, we're just not privy to enough information to say, oh, this is how successful this strength and conditioning staff has been in getting these guys to these target weights, speeds, whatever they are. But the combine is kind of one of the best ways we have it because it's actually public knowledge about how these guys test in their metrics. But thank you. All right. That's a really good question. Let's get to another super chat. Oh, I think all right. I had another one. He says, do we think part of why Sark brought him in is for the executive strengths, considering he's been a head coach for so long? Executive, I like that. Executive strengths. Basically, what do you think? What are your thoughts about that, Coach? Do we think part of why Sark brought in Mark Stoops was basically he was a head coach for a long time? Probably ain't going to be many situations he has not had to deal with in some form or fashion. And will probably have some type of counsel, no matter what situation you're with. He'll have some type of counsel and experience in dealing with that matter, especially potentially in the SEC. Oh, Coach, Nick, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm still coughing. I still got the COVID hangover. I think that's a fair assessment and a question, and I think the answer is yes. I just think the nuggets that he can bring, just some that, may not verbalize himself until they're in a situation where he says, hey, Coach, hey, consider this. Think about this. I think that's one of the things that he brings to the table for sure. I know that Sark respects him and he should be respected, but I think more than anything, somebody inside that scouted you and knows you and knows all of your opponents is going to give you so much help and so much wisdom in areas, but also that administrative help of his head coaching experience. And, you know, maybe say, Coach, have you thought about maybe laying off a little bit more on this day, or going a little harder on this day, or maybe, you know, changing the schedule to this or that or whatever. We had good luck with this because this is what we were doing. And then these were the results that we got from that, you know. And then it's just kind of like Sark just sifts through it and takes what he feels like that he can see the advantage of doing things a certain way, not only defensive schemes, but as a head coach.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I love about Sark, that he's not afraid to bring people in. And as y'all have already pointed out earlier in the show, it's shown very obviously on the field, the strengths of these people when they come in, what they have done successfully and how he's implemented things that they've done into his systems. And I don't know why he wouldn't do that, you know, having former head coach coming in. And, you know, and like I said, you've got to kind of swallow your pride and your ego and be able to listen, because the great ones always learn. That it's always learning, always picking up nuggets, man. I just always try to pick up nuggets, always try to hire coaches smarter than me, which wasn't hard to do. And just pick their brains, man, you know, and just piecemeal things together that you think is going to fit your system.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's good stuff, Coach. All right. Thank you for that question there. All right. How about this? Oh, Brad also thought that he also plays Georgia well, talking about Mark Stoops. Really, I have not checked out his record versus Georgia or how his teams performed versus Georgia. I know he didn't beat Georgia, but I haven't seen how his teams performed well versus Georgia. So that's a good point. I got to go check that out. I got to go look at how Georgia did versus Kentucky, because, hey, Sark can use all the help he can get whenever he has to see Kirby Smart again. We know that's going to happen. Playoffs, or it's going to happen in the SEC title game. But, yes, that is the big news that Texas did hire Mark Stoops as the special assistant to the head coach. All right, before we move on, I want to get your thoughts, CJ, on the Under Armour camp that you got a chance to attend this past weekend. I know there are a couple of nuggets you wanted to share with the people. What did you see at the Under Armour camp that really caught your attention or piqued your interest?
Yeah, first and foremost, CB, Hank South did join OTF this weekend. He was with me over in Denton. Very excited to have Hank a part of the team. He's fantastic when it comes to recruiting all things Texas as well. So we put up quick video Sunday afternoon with a lot of the top prospects. Make sure to go check that out, as well as our notebook this morning on the recruiting side of things. But few takeaways. A couple of the top offensive linemen that I saw, all four guys Texas has had on campus this year, two of which have official visits set. Brian Swanson out of South Oak Cliff looked fantastic. Peyton Miller out of Anna. Those are probably the top two. And then the two guys right after, Jasper and Gockware over out of Richardson. Texas yet to schedule an official visit yet, but he does have a Texas offer. And then Jackson Cook out of Westlake, have yet to see a Texas offer be extended to Cook, but he looked really, really good on Sunday. So those are guys that I wanted to mention on the offensive line. Plenty of wide receivers mentioned Chris Jackson as their main relationship. Bryson Thrower said he had the best relationship of any coach in his recruitment at the moment with Chris Jackson. Of course, we believe that Thrower at the moment is one of the top prospects on the board for the Longhorns. And then I did want to mention, of course, John Meredith, right? Who wants to know about John Meredith, the number one overall cornerback in the country, 6'2", just moved from Euless Trinity over to North Crowley. He said, look, I like Texas. I'm going to get back down to Texas. Texas A&M is going to be in this battle. Alabama is going to be in this battle. That's probably going to be where this decision comes from. And he's been in contact with Devin Sanchez at Ohio State, of course. But look, this is going to be one of the more heavily contested battles in all of the recruiting cycle for this 2027 season. And he is as natural a mover I've seen at the cornerback position, probably right there with Devin Sanchez. So when it comes to the most talented, most prototypically built corner, I mean, that's kind of what you're working with right now is John Meredith. Again, Texas A&M, Alabama. There's plenty of other schools in the mix. Ohio State, LSU, Florida, I believe, is going to have a say. So we'll see as it goes on. But we believe right now that official visit for Texas will come the first or second week in the month of June. That, of course, is still being finalized. But that, just to put y'all into perspective, what that North Crowley secondary looks like right now.
Wow.
Jerry Outhouse, the corner opposite of John Meredith, received a Georgia prediction today. Their safeties, Fats Houston, has a Texas offer as well. Braylon Cunningham, a 2029 corner. In 2 years, we might be talking about him in the same breath as a Devin Sanchez and John Meredith. So North Crowley has a fantastic crop of secondary guys, and John Meredith right now leading the way as the number 1 corner in the 2027 class.
This got to be one of the best secondaries in the state. Gotta be. Right? They got 3 guys who are going to play D1 ball. Maybe he said maybe more than that, right?
They've got 5 guys. Their entire starting secondary has Division I offers. And then they have 2 or 3 guys that have to sit, obviously, because they just can't get on the field, that probably would see some G5 offers as well.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
Yeah,
that is great stuff there, CJ. Good breakdown. Appreciate that. All right, now we're getting close to the end of things. So I got a couple of questions that I want to hit that I thought caught my eye. Oh, here it is from Jason. It says, how long will it take Muschamp's philosophy and keys to work themselves out completely new system? This is interesting because I think it's all based on the system and then based on the players you have. And like sometimes your system is closely related to a system that they were running, and all you got to do is really just bridge the disconnect between what's lost in translation, right? In terms of the terminology and all that kind of stuff. Like think about when Texas kept hiring defensive coordinator after defensive coordinator, right? They went through Manny Diaz, Vance Bedford, Todd Orlando, really kept going through all these defensive coordinators. You remember, guys, in each of those tenures, those 3 defensive coordinators for Manny Diaz and for Vance Bedford and Todd Orlando, their best years were the first years. The best years of those defenses were the first years. The defenses got worse while they got fired. The defenses got worse as the longer they stayed. Their worst years were like the third year, and they were done. So it can happen where your best year is the first year. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen to Muschamp, but sometimes you have a really good year and you start off with a bang. So I'm saying I don't know. I don't know, Coach, you have any thoughts about that? Like how quickly it can take to adapt to a new system?
Well, one question I like to ask is, do you guys know of any other defensive coaches on the staff currently that have worked with Will Muschamp besides Blake Gideon?
Orfe.
Mark Orfe was a GA for him at South Carolina at the time when he was the head coach there.
That's it.
Yeah. So there's 2 guys there that have worked with him before. Blake coached for him. I think Blake was a GA for him, I believe, at some point.
So, yeah, that actually helps out. And like I said, I wonder if they said we still don't. I don't know. Have we found out what Muschamp is coaching or if he's coaching something specific? Has that been announced?
We'll officially find out 1 week from today.
Okay. Just want to make sure because that also may play a role. Maybe he trusts that he's got guys who they know how I interpret coverages in secondary. They know that. That's Blake Gideon. So I brought him in for that. I got Mark Orfe. And so maybe he'll pay more attention to the front because when you lost PK, you did lose. He was coaching the front. So maybe he'll be more focused on the front and he'll have a lot of trust in Blake Gideon to make sure that they can marry the secondary and the coverages with the front successfully. But that's a good question, Jason. I don't think we have the answer, but I'll just say, look, I always like to look at history because I figure history is the best predictor of future events and future human behavior. And like I said, in 3 years, Texas had 3 years. In 3 year increments, I should say, Texas had 3 straight defensive coordinators that had their best years in the first year. And then the defenses got worse. So we'll see. I think Muschamp's system, I think he'll simplify it so that guys can play fast. And I think it'll get more complex as he's here longer. But I think to start out, there's no way he's going to put a lot on these guys' plates. So they got to think too much in that system. He's going to let them play fast and let them play free. So that's how I think he's going to streamline it for him. But good question. Really good question. CB wants to know any word on what happened to Jalen Gilbo and why he didn't work out the combine. Still no word, right?
I haven't heard officially. I haven't had a chance to check in yet. I haven't been on the road and up in Denton. So I know some guys just get up to, the Indianapolis for the interviews, to the FaceTime with the coaches, and they look at their home turf back for the pro day and say, that's where I want to do everything. I'll check in with Gildo and see what the deal is.
Considering the participation rate at the combine has dipped below 50% again, is it surprising? It shouldn't be surprising that a guy decides not to do it. I will say for Texas fans, Texas players have participated probably more than a lot of other big-time schools players in terms of how well they're represented. They go there and compete, and I think that's also a good thing. I think the coaches actually like that, and whether it's in your best interest or not, you're probably for your agent to say, but I do think the coaches and scouts at the combine like the guys go there and like to compete. That's part of it too. That's part of the evaluation process is who are the best competitors out there. All right. Thank you for that. We got another super chat here before we end things from Brad. Says with the current secondary coaching minds and personnel, could this end up being the best secondary of all time? Whoa, of all time. Whoa, man. All time? Brad, all time. I can't go all time. Hey, can it be better than 2024? It's the question I want to know. Can it be better than that secondary? That's the best secondary you've had in a long time. Can it be better than that? Because that secondary was what? Top 3 in the country?
Yeah.
It was like it was in the conversation to be the best secondary in the country. I think you have a chance because your guys are young. I love me some Cade Phillips, love me some Grayson Littleton. Those guys make plays on the football. They got natural ball hawks in them. Jalen McDonald is one of the most versatile weapons in all of college football. That's a great place to start. I think Bo Maskell is really underrated. I think he's one of the best tacklers already in that secondary when you bring him in. I think he's going to have a really positive impact. So, I mean, I got 4 pieces I'm confident in the secondary already. But it's interesting that you say best all time. I don't see that. I don't see him being transcendent just yet. But I do see him being good, just not transcendent.
I agree. All time feels like a lot.
Ooh, that feels like a lot. I mean, come on now.
It is a lot.
Like I said, that 2024 is all time. I'm trying to think of the all-time great secondaries we've had just recently. 2024 is in that conversation. I mean, obviously, 08, 09's in that conversation. 05, 04's in that. It's probably at the top of that conversation. 05 is the greatest secondary. No, you ain't gonna get no complaint from me. 05 had 3 first rounders and a second rounder. Nope, that's legit. Yeah. My secondary I played in. I played in some good secondaries. Me, Nathan Vasher, Quentin Jammer. Yeah. That was one of the best set. I think we still ended up being like top 5 among the modern era. Don't get me started about Jerry Gray and Johnny Johnson and all those guys. That's a different era altogether. And that's another great group. So I can't say all time, Brad, because I disrespect so many of the GOATs when I do that. Let them prove it first before we start talking them up all the time. But can they get to 2024? That should be the goal. That should definitely be the goal. And by the way, Blake Gideon was here then. So he knows the standard, damn it. He knows how it goes. All right. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, all you guys, for the super chats. Really great stuff. Let's thank our lead sponsor one more time before we end tonight's live stream. Let's thank our friends at Vaughn Lane. Vaughn Lane does a great job of making sure that you get from point A to point B in the most luxurious, relaxing fashion. A lot of you out there are still flying those shorter routes in between major Texas cities. You're probably driving yourself a lot of times in between those major Texas cities. That can be a bit of a hassle. It can be dangerous. Also, it can be just stressful and tiring. Our friends at Vaughn Lane, they deliver a first-class travel experience on the ground. You board in minutes at a private hotel terminal, settling to one of just 22 oversized leather seats. You enjoy complimentary snacks, beverages, and hot towel service on every trip. And on select departures, you even have complimentary meals. They've upgraded their entire fleet with Starlink internet, making their Wi-Fi faster and even more reliable. And they've also added more great cities to the list of cities that they serve: Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands as well, Nashville, Memphis, Atlanta, and Knoxville. And if you're traveling with a team, you can charter your own Vaughn Lane coach from pickup to drop off, and you can go to vaughnlane.com. That's VONLANE.com. And if it's your first time riding, you can enter the code OTF26 at checkout to receive $20 off your first ride with Vaughn Lane. That's Vaughn Lane, your private jet on wheels. Thank you very much to our friends over at Vaughn Lane. Thank you as well to our friends at Hardgrove Roofing. And thanks to Stevie Lee for joining us each and every Monday, courtesy of Hardgrove Roofing. Thanks to each and every one of you out there for watching and for listening. It really means a lot. Matthew is the real MVP behind the scenes. There would be no OTF without him. Thank you, Coach. Great stuff as always. CJ, appreciate all your expertise and knowledge. If we missed any of your questions, please direct them to the gentleman at Coffee and Football, Bryce and early tomorrow morning. That'll be at 8:15. Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. And also we'll have you tomorrow with our PM live stream. Remember, starting all our PM live streams at 7 o'clock. All right. We're trying to be 7 p.m. sharp, trying to make sure we start early. We can get you guys done a little bit early. So 7 p.m. tomorrow, my man CJ and Jeff Howe will be joining you for the PM live stream. For CJ and for Matthew and for Coach and for Stevie, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Baby. So until next time, hook 'em horns.